publicly for review. Okay. Um, I want to mention before we go through the rules and regulations that subsequently, after we developed these rules and regulations, um, we had a risk assessment from CIS, and I'm happy to report that the site and design considerations and the signage considerations of the risk assessment were addressed by our working group. There is a recommendation for periodic inspections of the site for safety issues, and I think that's easily accomplished. We can develop a check sheet for that and probably won't need to occur more than every few months. So in your packet, you should have the recommended skate park policies and rules, and we'll read through those really quickly. I'm sorry, I'm getting over the crud, so my voice is a little shaky. Our proposed policies, the skate park rules will be posted on site. We will have a sign with the skate park rules. Trash and recycling cans will be provided and maintained by the city. Concerns of activity at the skate park can be reported to City Hall, and we will post a number. Use of the skate park is at the risk of the user, and this is per an Oregon revised statute for recreational immunity. And we will actually post all that language on our sign. We want to keep a broom on site for skate park users to clear debris, leaves, or acorns that might get onto the skate surface, and that's for their own safety. Might need to buy those by the dozen, I'm not sure. The skate park committee will be convened as often as needed, but at least once a year to review any complaints or concerns about the skate park, and we can revise policies as necessary. So the rules, which will be posted on our sign, are the park hours, dawn to dusk, no overnight camping, no alcohol, smoking, vaping, or drugs of any kind, no fires or open flames, no motorized vehicles, no amplified music, no glass. Use the trash and recycling receptacles. Pick up after your pets. Use the public restrooms. Helmets and pads are highly recommended, and the use of the skate park is at the risk of the user. We also identified a few items for council to consider in addition to those proposed rules. The first one is we may want to consider a portable toilet on the skate park site. It was originally anticipated that skaters would use the bike hub newly constructed restrooms that are on the south side of the highway. However, ODOT does not want to paint a crosswalk because we don't have sidewalks. So this is a council decision. We can either have a porta potty or, we can just have people crossing the highway without a crosswalk. So it's possibly a safety issue. Video surveillance was discussed, and I understand that's being discussed elsewhere in Mosher at the same time. This would be one of the places where it might be considered. And the intent there is not that somebody would monitor the video surveillance constantly, but if there were an incident that was reported, that we could go back into the archive and view the incident on a given day. Fencing along the Mosher Creek bank was discussed as a safety item, and I am not sure. Well, apparently there was a fence there long ago. There are remnants of it on the ground, but as far as I know, there's never been a fence along the bank. The skate area is a good 20 feet away from the bank. So whether or not this is something that council wants to consider, that's up to you. Similarly, it was suggested that some signage be put up by the green chairs, which are also on the bank, discouraging people from going down the bank to the creek. And as I said, all of us on the working group were in agreement with these proposed rules and policies. And I think we want to open it up now for discussion. And I want to just encourage input from any of the members of the working group that are here. I see Mike Sloan. I see a few people that were on that working group. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Any members of the committee like to add anything to what Lee has briefed? Just looking for hands. Going once.
I'm not sure how to put my hand up. I'm Jane. But
okay, go ahead, Jane.
Okay, I sent an email. It was great to be a part of this committee. I'm in support of all these rules, and I've discussed some of the greater safety issues with Main Street Mosier as far as the surrounding area. And I just support the city taking on the rules and realizing that there is, of course, I think video surveillance or the signage for that is important. And then we address the reality that kids are going to be, bounding out from there. And so it would be good to have some sort of fence or something along Mosier Creek. Anyway, I sent an email and I'm here and support these rules.
Okay, thank you, Jane. Any other, before we go to council, any other members?
I have a comment, Mayor Anderson. This is Jamie Crawford.
Yeah, were you on the committee, or Jamie? Go ahead as planner, staff planner. Go ahead, Jamie.
Yeah, no, I wasn't on the committee, but I appreciate everything that the committee has developed. And I'll say that we are in the process of doing a site plan review for the skate park. And one of the provisions that we have had Dreamcast do is create an area for a porta potty installment. It's news to me that a potential fence may be part of the equation for the creek, but if the city would like to see that, then we can go through the land use approval for that development in that sensitive area. So,
okay,
that's all.
Thank you, Jamie.
Of course.
Mike Sloan, you're on mute if you're wanting to speak. Do you want to speak?
There. Thank you. I just wanted to agree with Lee and the other speakers about the productivity of the meetings. I thought they were very useful. By the way, I'm representing Main Street Mosier. The meetings were extremely useful. The one comment about reporting back to the city council, I think, is worth elaborating on, which is that the group agreed to a structure to continue to meet to address issues that would be brought to the city council when needed, at least once a year. If it's needed more often than that, the first one may be in 6 months or so. We'll see, but we'll be open to that, and we'll be in communication with the city council on those meetings. So some of the issues that were raised, like the fencing, we talked about possibly the need, but that would be something that we would review and potentially make recommendations to the city council at one of the annual or semi-annual meetings to review the status of the skate park. So it's possible that some of those will come back and make more urgent recommendations. They wouldn't necessarily need to be addressed immediately.
Yeah, thank you. Well, before we go to council questions of the committee, any other committee members, anything to add? Not, well, let's council, we'll go to questions, hold deliberation until after we hear public comment. But in terms of questions, I have one to start. Did the committee talk about enforcement? Is enforcement kind of peer pressure? You know, kids take this on, or when we observe something, you know, no glass, for example, down there, you know, how do we enforce that? Did you have ideas?
Well, go ahead, Mike.
No, Lee, you're in a better position to address it than I am. Please go ahead.
We did actually talk about it, and the way most skate parks operate are the rules are posted, and you know, there is not going to be any supervision of the park or anybody that's there constantly watching for a violation of any of the rules. However, if somebody sees it and they're concerned about it, there is at least some recourse in that it is a posted issue. We don't have a police force in Mosier. We don't have, and actually there's a liability issue if you do have supervision at the park. So we're really relying on the fact that, you know, we have posted the rules. And if there's a concern that somebody brings to us, we will deal with it. But other than that, we're not policing it.
Okay.
Mike, do you have?
Well, in general, I would say that most of the skate parks that we reviewed or talked to people who knew about had an informal hierarchy or authority. I'll call it peer pressure. Peer pressure to obey the rules that affected the skating community. And that's what we want to have happen. That's the ideal situation where the skaters and the people at the skate park enforce the rules themselves. And that's more often than not the way that it works. And I'm hopeful that we never have to move beyond that. If we do, that's one of the reasons why there is a posted telephone number to leave comments and report things that you don't like happening with the city council. And that's one of the types of issues that the skate park review committee or the would be addressing and talking about with the city council.
Okay, thank you.
I wouldn't mind.
Councilors, other councilors, questions? I'll look for your hand raise.
Oh, I don't know how to do that. I'm sorry.
Is this Jane? Go ahead.
Oh, okay. In the context of the overarching safety is also that we did discuss this, as Mike said, and that is part of the greater issue of the fact that we as a community need greater police presence, and so we need a series of a paper trail when there are issues. There's not going to be an if. The reality is that we will probably have some sort of things going on. And I actually feel really positive that our list of rules does at least state the things that are prohibited. So if there are issues, then we as a community can go back and say, okay, these are the posted rules. Anyway, is a concern of the neighboring residents. Appreciate the listing for the paper trail.
Yeah, thank you all. Yeah, that's enforcement. The reason I asked the question, because as you all said, it's hard in our community. We have campers, we have illegal parking, we have all kinds of things. And, some of us get to pull our mayor card and say, hey, you can't camp here. And, you find out what happens. But anyway, thank you for that. Well, other counselors, questions on the proposal? Charlie Cannon, go ahead.
Has anyone looked into the cost of the cameras and or any sort of mutual agreement with ODOT given the sort of not the way in which that one-way bridge is going? There's a lot of folks who aren't used to that signage and just the issues of that being ODOT's responsibility and some of the ramifications that can come from that, and them maybe co financing the cost of cameras for that area. Has anyone looked into that at all? Because I think as far as reporting wrongdoings and whatnot, if the camera can capture both the skate park and vehicles, that may be a win-win.
Cost sharing. Committee want to respond to the question on cost sharing with ODOT?
We do not currently have any cameras in our project budget. And again, we were thinking that cameras were part of a more citywide issue. It's not necessarily a bad idea. And again, just to have an archive in case we need to go back and review an incident to see what really happened. I had not thought about the bridge and the vehicles and the crosswalk and all of that. But maybe, has anybody on city council looked into costs of these cameras?
Andrea, you want to respond? And then Jamie, you're up next.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. To the broader issue of security throughout the city of Mosier, and in particular in our commercial area and where people are hanging out and recreating along the Union Pacific, actually the city property now, and the Totem area. The city has looked into purchasing cameras and live cameras that are reaction. They move based on reactivity or action. We've also been in touch with our insurance company regarding the use of that kind of surveillance. So it is something that the city is looking into on a broad basis, and when we decide to implement those cameras, one of them would be at the EV station directed towards the park. I don't think that we can combine that with ODOT and the speed issue. That's sort of where Wasco County Sheriff supports our traffic issue, and we have obtained, as you maybe have noticed coming into town, we have obtained a speed sign that is encouraging people to slow down and informing them of the speed limit. So the greater issue of the traffic near the skate park, across Mosier Creek Bridge, continue to work with ODOT on signage. And I hope that answers your questions. Also have spoken to ODOT about being able to place sidewalk crosswalks, even though we don't have a sidewalk to and from, which is kind of the requirement in most cases. And they're willing to have someone come out and take a look at where we may be able to put two crosswalks, one near the school and the other near the skate park or hub, in order to have more safe passage across Highway 30 there through our commercial zone.
Okay, thank you, Jamie Crawford. Mark, I see your hand up. We'll let you speak when we get to public comment, if that's okay. Jamie?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Anderson. So, one question I have for Main Street Mosher and the committee that put together these rules, I'm wondering if they have been reviewed by either fire or police for the community. And if they haven't, if there is intention to provide that to them to let them know. So we're not just posting the rules on a sign and then having calls, go into EMS. So
One
That's a
suggestion.
That's a good comment. Again, we did have a risk assessment by the insurance company, but we could easily pass these along to the fire department. I don't know who else to pass them to. So,
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
maybe that would be like a condition of approval, just suggesting.
okay,
Thank you, Jamie.
we can make
Jane,
note of
as a
that.
committee member, Jane Elkin, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I just figured out how to raise my hand. Um, um, we did not go that far, likely thinking that we're proposing to the city and the city then would take on the responsibility for the city responsibilities for these rules. Anyway.
Okay, thank you. Okay, other counselors, and Laura, do you need to weigh in here? Go ahead, Laura.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Anderson. Well, I'll just bring it up because there was mention of a condition of approval. So just for clarity, the city council is not in any kind of land use decision here. The next land use decision, as Jamie mentioned, is the site development permit, which would be a future decision. So tonight, the only thing before the council is, approval of, you're looking at this policy as this is going to be something that's going to be adopted essentially as a city's policy, the rules that apply to the skate park. Is that going to meet all of the concerns that you've talked about among yourselves and addressed by your community as presented tonight? And what you're looking at tonight is approval of these rules as presented or as you decide to amend by discussion. And that's the only thing. So there's no need to condition your approval on anything for tonight. That'll be a future decision, just to clear that.
I'm sorry, I'm so used to being in my own world. So yeah. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you for that clarification, Laura. Counselors, any other questions? Let's hold deliberation for the moment. Any other questions of the committee before we turn to public comment? If not, okay. Well, Jane, do you have something as a committee member?
I'm back on the video and just sharing with City Council how the video came about. That video surveillance on site could be a simple piece of that and could actually be combined with the EV site and the rules. That rule might deter any sort of potential aberrant behavior and would maybe just simply entail internet and simple camera itch, not necessarily full complex, expensive, and at least initially. I just wanted to say that. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Jane. Okay, counselors, any other questions? We'll go to deliberations after we have public comment. If not, okay, I'd like to open public comment, and a question is okay from members of the public. Mark Payne, your hand had been up. Would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. Just a question about graffiti and tagging, whether or not there needs to be a rule.
We did discuss this, and actually there is quite a debate about what is urban art and what is graffiti. But from a safety standpoint, we do want to discourage graffiti because sometimes the paint can be slick if it's on the skate surface. We did not make a rule about that, and I'm open to comment about it.
Okay. Thank you, Mark, for that comment. That's a good thing to take up in deliberation. Now, I'll go to Matt Haas, and then is that Joey on Louis' phone? Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm just a resident of Mosier, but I also have probably 30 years of experience skateboarding as well. So a comment and a question. The comment on somebody mentioned the just debris or picking up glass, this kind of a thing. Essentially, anyone who's skating the park is going to take care, like if that actually happened,
Yeah.
they would take care of that because you can't really skate with a lot of debris in the terrain. So I think like in most cases you can consider that self-policing. My question is, can someone explain the specific concern about surveillance specifically for the skate park versus any other activity in the city?
I can just explain that it came from the larger parks having surveillance and the fact that we as a community have little to zero police presence. So, given that, if we have a little bit of edge to have something in place that will help that. Again, the larger parks tend to decide to place that. We're small, but we also don't have police presence, and we don't have active people we don't have any. I don't know. You know what I mean? So that's where it stems from. Parks that don't have it tend to adopt it. And so if we could start with a small little bit, then that sort of helps the lack of police presence and things that we need to work on in the future with our town.
Thank you, Jane. Okay, I'll go to Louis' phone. Is that Joey? You're up.
Yes, it is. I was just wondering if the city council well, thank you very much, Mayor. I appreciate you heading this meeting. I was wondering, like, with the concerns and questions that we sent via email, will you guys be going through those? Or is this the time for us to speak about what we sent to you guys? Because I was said that you guys need to review comments and questions. What's the procedure for that?
Yeah, Joey, good question. One of the challenges we have is when comments come in late before the meeting, getting them circulated, people working, time to read and review. So I would ask, we can read your comments if you like. I think one of us could pull it up because some of us have seen it, but I'd ask if you're willing to go ahead and make your comments and suggestions. For example, dogs on a leash, I think was one of your suggestions. Why don't you just tick through those if you don't mind?
Yeah, no problem. Let me see if I could just pull up my email without completely closing this thing, because I can make an iPhone freeze. Oh yeah, no, I got it. Okay, so just give me 1 second. So my
Okay.
so the rules that I would consider adding is pets should be on a leash to avoid injury. However you want to, verbiage or however you want to phrase it. I think it's really detrimental because there's so many people walking dogs down there that it's not human error if a dog runs in front of you while you're dropping in to a quarter pipe. So, that's just a dog eat dog world at that point. So I think some form of rule because people like to let their pets run down there. But in most cities, there is a leash law, especially Hood River. And then minors under 12 should be accompanied by an adult or guardian. So that will alleviate some of the riffraff. And then like elaborating onto what you guys were talking about before, a lot of skate parks like Lincoln City and stuff, the really big ones, they have something saying like along the lines of see something, say something, speak up for wrongdoing in your own community. So like kind of just promoting self-policing, I think on the sign, in bigger words than the other rules, I think will mean a lot, especially if other parents see that. Because it's very easy to be a bystander or pull your phone out and film instead of actually just saying something, because you could squash something in 5 seconds with a little bit of embarrassment instead of making it a whole thing, especially in the society with, phone filming and stuff. And then my question is there any measures taken? Well, you guys kind of answered it. Is there any measures taken place through ODOT to slow down speeds near the skate park? But it sounded like you guys are going to try to get more signs put in. And I know they won't put in speed bumps. So what it is what it is. Will there be lights is another thing. Just because like if you're going to do surveillance and whatnot, how the heck are you going to film somebody if there's no lights on? Because I know if Mosher can't afford infrared cameras. And then and then logistically, like who would be the surveillance officer or operator if cameras are installed? Like who would actually be, running the remote if there was a situation? And then my only concern is, did you look over my email, Mayor?
Yes, I did.
All right, is it okay if I read my concern, or would you like to do that?
No, it's
Okay.
up to you.
And then my concern is, Jane tried to dismantle the dream of a skate park in the community with a lawsuit. I don't think it's right for her to be on the board if she's against it in any way. She tried to also create a coup to stop the plans and building. Please make her resign from the skate park committee. She does not have good intentions or bring anything to the table. Does the city council have the authority to ask her to step down or question her intentions for being involved? Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll take that as a comment. So let me first see other public members comment. You had a number of suggestions in there, Joey. Jane, your hand's up? Go ahead.
I just wanted to reply that Luis's concerns I concur with, and the misconception that I have tried to squash a dream is a misconception. So hopefully people see through that, and I'm completely in support. So anyway, that's all I have to say on that.
Okay, thank you, Jane.
I don't know how to raise my hand either, but I could address a couple things. Number one was lighting. We did discuss this. We want the skate park hours to be dawn to dusk, and we don't want to encourage skating at night. And also, if we were to try to light the park for skating, the neighbors were opposed to that. The neighborhood was opposed to having bright lights there in the evening, but also, unless it's very specifically designed, it can create a hazardous condition for skaters at night. So we purposefully, there is ambient light because there's a street light not too far away. I'm not sure if it's by the ED charging station, but there's the ambient light that's always been in that area, but nothing. We're not lighting it further. The other thing is that Jane was really just part of the rules and regulations committee. She's not actually part of the overall project management of the skate park, although her input was very valuable during development of the rules and regs.
Thanks for those responses. Any other public comments before I close the hearing and we turn to deliberations among council? And we can ask questions still during deliberation as needed. Any other members of the public? If you can't raise your hand, just speak up. If anyone has anything. Okay, if not, we'll close the hearing portion and we'll turn to deliberations, questions, discussion among council members based on what is proposed and what we've heard this evening. And then we'll take action whether to adopt or amend. Do you want me to start? I think first of all, thank you to Main Street Mosher, to every member of the committee. Thank you for convening it. Thank you for all the participation by all the members, including 2 council members, Gary and Noah. And a special thanks goes to Emily Strands for facilitating. I hear went very, very well. So good work to you all. This is work the city would have had to do at some point. So this is very, very helpful. I think what you guys have come up with, I'm very pleased to hear you say it was consensus. I mean, that's really, really strengthening in my mind. I think it's very comprehensive. I like the revisit, Mike, that you talked about, that you proposed to do to catch up, to make amendments, to give city advice on things we may need to change down the road. I think Joey's comment, pets on a leash, probably makes sense on the sign that we put. That seems reasonable. I think maybe I guess this is a question to the committee: is the no graffiti point on the rule sign that was brought up? Does that make sense? Is that something elsewhere that's been used? I think those are some good things for us to consider. So let me open it up to other counselors. Noah, you had your hand up a moment ago. Do you want to weigh in?
No, that's all right. I think it got covered actually. But thank you.
Any other thoughts? I mean, it looks like we're all thinking this is a very comprehensive proposal. Anything that anyone thinks we should consider adding, amending to these rules? The lease for pets, is there, to the committee, back to the committee, is there any reason not to do that? Is that a common thing at state parks?
That's a great addition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree.
Charlie, go ahead.
I was just hoping that with some of the rules and the signage recommendations, that we can see it in writing the way it's presented. I think things that are some of the key rules and regulations that we want to make sure seen, they should stand out. So the formatting of the actual layout, I think, should be important, and don't make it come off as, I think all the comments about self-regulating and self-policing is good. So we should empower the kids and make the signage look inviting for them, not authoritarian in any way. And so
you're asking us to at some point see the actual signage. Yeah. Okay.
Just
good.
Because then it'll be done right.
That's great. We can do that. We can get.
I'm not sure who is next, Brenna or Ron, but Brenna, you go as you're Madam President. You can go first, then Ron.
Thank you. And I apologize for not having my video going this evening, but I too have the head cold that's going around. So, so I guess question number one is, has somebody actually, gone around and, maybe taken pictures at other skate parks, the Hood River Skate Park or the Dalles, of their rules and regulations, just to have a visual and something to compare to? And kind of to echo what Charlie said, I like the idea of being able to see exactly how we're gonna kind of lay it out and really make it empowering but informational for the reader and the skater and who is ever looking at the signs. And then I actually liked the idea of the minors under 12 years old or whatever age we decide to maybe be accompanied by somebody, a parent, a guardian, an older friend, something. So I liked that suggestion. And that's all I've got.
Okay.
I will say that we did take pictures. I went around and took pictures of the rules at other skate parks and brought those to the committee meeting when we were discussing the rules. DreamWorks, I think, has done 100 of these and done a lot of signs. So there is quite a bit of signage example available, and we did take into account the signs when we were talking about the rules.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
And
Thanks.
I think Dreamland would be a good resource to talk to about graffiti as well. We can have a further discussion about that with them because they've done over 200 skate parks in Oregon. So they've dealt with all of it.
Okay, thank you. Ron?
So all this is so good. On the graffiti, maybe making it more of a positive statement of that, graffiti hurts the skating surface,
Mhm.
something that it's a negative impact on the skaters.
Yeah.
Yeah, the pets on the leash, I think that makes a lot of sense. So, but is it reasonable to say that this is a kind of a living document, this list, that as we gain experience with the park and problems and issues, that we can amend this and modify it as needed?
Yes, and I think that's one reason why we decided that we need to meet every few months to see if there have been any consistent complaints or comments or concerns, so we can address any new policies that need to be put in place.
The only caveat to that is I asked about adding additional signs if needed, and got some pushback because of the cost of the initial signs and the cost of adding signs. So if we're changing rules that would require changes to the sign, that would take some extra thought.
Yeah, but notwithstanding that, Ron, I think as city council, we always can change,
yes,
make amendments. And I like the way Mike had addressed it earlier, that you guys, and Lee said you guys will be periodically reconsidering. Well, any other, Charlie?
One last thing, as far as the recommendations, I feel that those should be considered as time goes by to see how things are working before we would worry too much about any of those suggested recommendations.
Charlie, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, and just as a cost saver, a lot of signage, when it gets printed on a metal sign, just allowing a little bit of gap space on the bottom so that there is space to add like 2 additional comments or suggestions, so it's not tightened up, so that we print it on a larger piece of metal so that we can add with decals later if we need.
Well, listen, here's what I'm hearing, and we can entertain a motion to adopt as amended. I think we adopt what's proposed here as amended with the lease provision, the under 12 accompanied by adult, maybe some language on graffiti as in a positive way. Those are the 3 substantive things I've heard, I think. Did I miss anything? And then Charlie's point that at some point, not substantively, but graphically, we just get a picture of what the sign's going to look like. So there's one other thing, the insurance question, and maybe 2 other things. Andrea, you've talked to our insurance provider about language we should have, maybe not just at the skate park, but at other city parks. Do you want to speak to that to make sure we have that topic covered?
This is related to the recreational immunity law that essentially states that you're using the parks at your own risk, and the city isn't liable for the use of the park as long as we're not charging a fee to use the park. So that language has already been brought to the project managers and mentioned in this presentation, I think, from Lee. But I will follow up to ensure that the correct language is what is put on the sign here at the skate park, and if needed in other parks that we have in the city.
Okay. Well, I think unless Laura, do you want to speak? Go ahead.
Yes, Mayor, I was just going to say I'll put a proposed motion in the chat with those 3 additions that I heard you summarize here, and add that I think the graffiti, what I'm hearing is the direction from council is to ask the Main Street Mosher working group to come back with proposed signage, with the spacing, and maybe some ideas about graffiti versus art for future amendments potentially to the rules. But what I'm hearing the council is wanting is potentially to approve the motion, approve
Yeah,
the
yeah.
rule that's presented with those three.
Yeah, yes, that's right. That's what I was proposing, because we want to make this decision tonight. We don't want to punt. We have a schedule to maintain, so there's no reason not to. So if people are ready, does one council member or another want to move per the motion that Laura's added to the chat? Anyone?
I have a little confusion. Did you mean to put something in there about graffiti?
I didn't, Counselor Wright. What I was hearing is there's maybe a little bit more discussion and interest in looking at other jurisdictions for what they talk about for graffiti and what's art versus graffiti. And maybe there's a little bit more of a future discussion to be had among the working group before it's presented for any amendment to the rules in the future.
I mean, I'm not sure it's my place to recommend, but I might recommend that you not put that in the rules, but that you ask the Main Street Mosher Working Group to address it in the first report and review process.
So that would be 6 months from now, perhaps, Mike? Is that something like that? So we're okay with that. Yeah, I think that's reasonable. Counselors, good with that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, well then I think the motion is ready to be so moved. Any counselor?
I could take a stab at that. I move that the council approve the rules, regulations, and policies for the skate park as presented tonight and amended by discussion to include rules in regard to keeping pets on a leash, having kids 12 years old and under being accompanied by an adult, and addressing the risk and liability with the input received from CIS and consistent with the city's recreational immunity.
Good. Any discussion? Do I have a second? Charlie Cannon, thank you. All in favor? I'll see by a show of hands.
Aye.
Any opposed? Looks like it's unanimous. Great. Once again, Main Street Mosher and your entire team, and Jane and Emily, thank you for your work. Really helpful to the city, and we'll make this a successful project. So thank you, guys. And you're welcome to stay. So we'll now return to the regular council business. The hearing is closed. And I guess I closed it earlier already. So thank you all. And let's move to the regular council agenda. So we've done roll call. Minutes of January 7th. I looked at them. Amy, as always, very good substantively. There's a couple typos. I think at one point, joint youth facility instead of youth facility. I think Colleen Coleman's name was spelled wrong, but nothing really big. So anyone else have comments on the January 7th minutes? If not, would somebody so move to approve as amended? Anyone want to move?
I move to approve the minutes from last month as amended from the January 7th.
Thank you. Gary, second?
Sure.
Anyone? Ron, seconds. Thank you. All in favor? Great. Thank you. Unanimous. And I should have, Andrea, asked for additions or corrections to the agenda. I think, Andrea, you have one.
Thank you. Yes, I'd like to add the approval for the city manager to enter into the construction contract with Dreamland. And Laura has a motion that she will put into the chat for that.
Okay, should we do that at the end?
We could do that at the same time that we do the volunteer agreement.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Any other additions or corrections? Okay, opportunity for public comment. Is Commissioner Hagee still there? There you are, Scott. Anything from the commission for the good of old Mosier?
Big old Mosier. No, I always appreciate being here. Appreciate the work you guys do. We did actually, the commission approved our emergency operation plan today, which Mosier is a part of. So a lot of work involved in that, trying to kind of figure out how we collectively as a community are going to will respond and can respond to emergencies. So if you haven't seen that, I'd be happy to send it to you. It's a pretty large document, but a lot of work was put into it, and we're going to have emergencies in the future. So it's good to kind of know what's in there and how we respond as communities, cities, and counties, and everything else.
Yeah, thank you for that, Commissioner. Andrea and I recently attended a workshop with your team, and they did a very nice job on that. And we went through our annex or appendix to that. So Andrea's getting synced up with our fire department here, so we're all clear on that. But very, very good product you guys put together, largely.
Perfect. And we appreciate your guys' help in putting that together as well. So thank you.
Other members of the public, Charlie, I'll come back to you.
I just had a question.
Hold on, Charlie.
Yeah.
Nicole, your hand's up. And then Jane's on deck. Nicole?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just really quickly wanted to introduce myself for those of you who may not know me, Nicole Beekler. I am actually a candidate for Scott Hagee's position as County Commissioner. So just wanted to pop in and kind of pay attention to what's going on with the city of Mosier. And just on a side note, strong ties to the city of Mosier. My grandmother was the public librarian for decades. So happy to be just listening today and paying attention to what's going on with everyone.
Well, thank you for attending. We appreciate it, like we do Commissioner Hagee and other commissioners when they join us. Thank you. Jane Elkin, go ahead.
Yeah, all I wanted to say is sent an email off, and Andrea has responded, and then I hope it was to be forwarded to City Council on questions, and that's all I need to say or want to say.
Yeah, thank you, Jane. I saw it, read it. Andrea did too. I saw she indicated she'll respond back to you later this week, and Amy will get it to all council if she hasn't already.
Great.
So thank you. Okay, Charlie, if no other members of the public, and then Lydia. Charlie, go ahead.
Yeah. Scott, I was just curious. It's come up quite a bit with some concerned residents. I'm wondering maybe what you know from the county side of things about in regards to. My friend works as a lawyer for the EPA, and he sent me an article, and he grew up in the Gorge here. And he just sent me an article in regards to Google's ongoing efforts with their data centers and some of their, the original goal was that they would use the Columbia water, but now they're using City of Dalles water is my understanding. But the increased temperatures in the Columbia, and like we got the the mailer showing how the toxic algae blooms that have been occurring because of the increased warming temperatures, and now my dog's gotten sick from swimming in the algae waters that are happening because of warming temperatures in the Columbia, and just wondering, as either the city of the Dalles or the county, if what kind of environmental safety oversight is being talked about in regards to the Google data centers, and they're essentially warming up the Columbia at a rapid rate due to their off-gassing of the cooling water that they're warming.
Sure. Yeah. So quickly, and I'd be happy to maybe talk to you offline, but
Sure.
Google doesn't get any water from the Columbia like directly.
Right.
All the water they get comes from the city, and any
Mhm.
discharge water they discharge goes through the city's system as well. So it meets all EPA requirements, in terms of everything like that. So
Okay.
I haven't heard that specifically. But just a lot of people are confused about whether Google gets water from the Columbia. Actually, none of the water comes from the Columbia. It's all kind of the city's surface water and some well water.
But wasn't that their whole design concept of why they positioned those plants was originally, correct me if I'm wrong, was to use the Columbia water, and then they determined that the Columbia water was too warm, And so
Yeah.
it's an unfortunate circumstance because they're taking up prime real estate down there
Yeah.
when they could
No,
be stationed up in the hills somewhere, you know.
sure. Yeah, no, they never intended on using any water from the Columbia. They would have to have a water right to do that. The city does have water rights. We did have some discussion with them about that possibility, but honestly, the water in the Columbia didn't have the characteristics they needed. It was basically not clean enough to use in their facility. So the only water they could use, they would have to basically have an entire plant. And the city looked at the possibility of doing that, but it wasn't really feasible given the water supply that they already had. So, but
Okay.
if you have my number, Charlie,
Yeah,
feel free to give me a
sure.
call. We can
Okay.
meet maybe sometime. I'd be happy to chat with you, kind of try to answer your questions and maybe connect you with other people that might be able to answer more questions.
Cool.
Thank you,
Thanks, Scott.
Commissioner. Lydia, you have your hand up?
Yes, this is a general comment about the postal system in Mosier currently. Our mail has packages that are being street addressed and then including the PO box number are being returned. It has happened to me a couple of times. I've talked to people in the condos as well as my neighbors, and as well as Victoria, our post office manager. And it's an ongoing issue and has been for a few months. And she said that it all comes down to the supervisor at the Dalles Center. And I'm wondering what we can do about this because it's definitely becoming a really, really big issue. So
Yeah.
that's my.
Yeah, Lydia. Hey, Lydia, I'll jump in on that. I had the same issue. I talked to Victoria about it. She said, Joe Atwood, I think's his name, it's his policy. Hey, let me try this. I'm going to be meeting with Senator Merkley on Friday.
Okay.
And if I can't speak to him directly on this, because I have talked to him about other postal issues we have, like the cost of mailboxes, like putting the cluster box at the senior center, et cetera, that Andrew has been working and Amy's been working for a long time. If I can't bring it up with him directly, maybe I can bring it up with staff and see if we can get that rectified. But
Okay.
it is very annoying. We just had a package shipped back.
So
Ron, you have something quick on this? I'm mindful that we have consultants that are hanging in and Monica. So I don't want to go down a rabbit trail, but go ahead.
I did have the same problem, and I went and talked to the postmaster in the Dalles, and he said that they have a system in place that they're supposed to take a street address and deliver it to the post office box. And so I would recommend that people go to the Dalles and talk to the postmaster directly to maybe elevate this issue.
Good suggestion. I've tried to meet with him 3 times and he's blown me off all 3 times. So, okay.
Could we get
let's move on. Good point though, Lydia. We're all frustrated.
Could I get his name, please? Because I work in the Dalles, so I can pop in there, but I don't know who to talk to. If I could just get his name.
Joe Atwood.
Oh, well, is there someone above him there? Because
no, he's the postmaster. So that's why we may have to go to the senator.
Great.
See what help
All
we
right.
can get. Okay.
If I can interject for just 10 seconds. We had a major issue with this because I was having paychecks sent back. You go talk to Victoria, you can go online. All residents in Mosier, because of what's happening and like the logistics, you can get a free PO box. We have one at the post office. So you guys, for people that are getting mail returned, there is a possibility to be compensated for it. Just go talk to Victoria.
Thank you, Joey. Was that your hand up comment? Okay, any other comments from public? If not, going once, going twice. Okay, we're moving on to budget calendar presentation. Miss Monica Morris, thank you for patiently waiting.
It's budget time. It's so exciting. Okay, I have before you the calendar for City Council that should look very familiar to you. It has all of your normal council meetings for the first Wednesday of each month. And the only addition on this that I really would like to draw your attention to and then make sure that we have your approval on is April 15th. budget committee meeting. So that would be an additional meeting. We would pull our budget committee together.
Okay.
So please let me know if that date will work. And if not, we can propose a new date.
April 15th. Anybody know they have issues with that? Let's make it work. Do we need the other dates on your report? Do we need to review those, Monica?
Those are your normal council meetings, the first Wednesday of each month. And the reason we selected April 15th is it's the third Wednesday. So that's always on the list as a potential council meeting if needed. So I just wanted to keep as familiar as possible. So no, all of those other meetings are already on your schedule.
Good, thank you. And Andrea, other citizen members of the committee, do you have a plan to get other membership?
Oh, you're reading my mind. I'm just typing into the chat. And since we have such a nice group of participants here, I'm asking for any and all volunteers to contact me if they're interested in participating in the budget committee. We're supposed to have as many citizens as we have counselors. So please let me know if this is something that you would like to do. It's not a very large time commitment, and Monica's great at helping us get through the process.
Yeah, hey, here.
I have a little blurb that I will send to Andrea and to our city recorder, Amy, it'll go on our website. The newspaper will post it for free, and it will go to the local radio asking for volunteer budget committee members, and it will share what the requirements are to participate in the city council budget process. So yes, we will do as much outreach as we can, but we would appreciate all of you spreading the word, really getting people involved because it is interesting.
Yeah, it is. Great. Anything else, Monica?
No, that is it. If you would please, you have a sample motion. If you would be okay with somehow committing to that 4/15 budget committee meeting date or accepting the budget calendar as presented.
Yeah, perfect. Would somebody like to so move? Any counselor? Come on, Noah, you're up for it.
Sure. I move that City Council meet for a budget committee meeting on April 15th.
Thank you.
2026.
I have a second? Great, Charlie, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Looks unanimous. Any opposed? None opposed. Great. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you.
Okay, and please feel free to stay. There she goes. Stormwater update, Jody Bear. Thank you for hanging in here with us. Over to you.
Okay, you guys can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Y'all can see this now, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so this is going to be quick, but I wanted to share this so you guys could review it and know what we're up to. So we've got all the comments in, and we've got all of the comments addressed, and we're getting them back to the commenters to accept what we've done, basically. And I did find the rest of those pipes that I was telling you I was going to look for, the direct discharges, and I've got a few revisions to the project list. And I'm going to briefly go over that. So the next couple of months, the planners, so Willamette Partnership, they're working on the planning code revisions so that we can basically adopt the new stormwater management plan and then get all of the code changes in place so that it's actually active. And they'll be working on that the next couple of months. I'm going to be traveling during that time. In April, when I get back, we're going to coordinate, and if there's any additional like minor modifications I need to make in the plan, we'll do that. And then we'll go through walk through the planning changes. So May, June, we should be adopting the stormwater management plan and then the changes. And then in your council packet, in this little section, there's 3 pages of all of the stakeholder comments. So those are city comments and all of the other agencies. And this is in here just for you to look through if you're interested. We've got the response, the comment response with how we resolved each one of those. And anyway, I don't want to go through all these tonight because that's too much. But if you guys can look through these and if you've got any concerns, reach out to me, Colleen and/or Andrea, so I can get that resolved. And then I just wanted to quickly, the section 17, the recommendations, this is basically the recommended projects. And by having them in here, this provides a better opportunity when and if funding becomes available, that we've got it listed in here. So the first 1 through 5 here, we've already talked about. It's education and some water quality testing, and some additional water quality treatment recommendations. Okay, and then down here, 6 through, I think it is 9, these are all of the direct pipe discharges to Mosier Creek and Rock Creek. And there's one at Husky Road, which is a county system because Husky Road is managed by the county. And there's some recommendations in here that are consistent with the new stormwater plan for improved treatment of that water before it would go down into those catch basins at Husky Road and Third, and then be discharged. So the discharge is underneath the driveway to the north of Husky Road and Third Avenue. And it's a pretty big pipe. I think it's a 24-inch metal pipe. And then it discharges into basically a basalt-lined, what did I call it? Basalt-lined waterway down to the creek. So we're not going to be eliminating that pipe, but there's some work that we could do in partnership with the county to actually treat that water before it's discharged. And then we've got 7, 8, and 9 are ODOT pipes that are, let's see, 7 is Mosier Creek at Highway 30. And there's a pipe that runs along the south side there that it looks like very clean water. And we're not sure exactly where all that water is coming from because we have limited information about the existing pipes. I think it is mostly groundwater around the west approach to that bridge, and it might actually be picking up seep water that's piped down through the residential area from Third all the way down to Highway 30. But anyway, there's a recommendation in there that when the improvements are made to Highway 30 that ODOT has planned, the slow-mo project, that we make sure that there's water quality treatment done down there at that catch basin. And then 8 and 9 are ODOT's I-84 bridges over Rock Creek and Mosier Creek. And Rock Creek is one that you have a couple of community members that approached last year that are interested in doing some stormwater treatment. There's some pipes, scuppers we call them, that go directly through the bridges and basically discharge the water really directly into the creek. And there's a potential project there with ODOT. And then, let's see. And then number 10 here, I added capture and use of the spring water that's daylighting at the base of the cliff area south of downtown. So over there on Center Street is one place where that water seeps out of that really steep hillside where all the new residential areas are. And the other one is over at Idaho, Idaho and Third, where there is a creek actually at the old oh, I forget what it's called, the Mosier, Matthews old B&B there. So anyway, it's mentioning that so that there's a lot of, I think, really clean spring water that is running through the downtown area that could be supplying the water needed for large trees and things like that to grow. So a potential opportunity that could spark innovative development solutions if somebody was thinking in that direction. Okay, and then the last three are maintenance related, education for the existing systems. So stuff that we had talked about previously.
Thank you, Jody.
Yes.
If you're ready for questions and comments from council members, I'll start. On these projects, I went through this and I was trying to figure out some of them. I know where they are. The scuppers on 84 because Emily Strands and I've talked about that. Some of the other ones I know. Some I'm not sure what they are. Would it make sense if any counselors were interested that we do a little walkabout someday and maybe you and Colleen take us to the high priority projects so we're all dialed in on those, what they are, just an idea. And,
sure.
And the second comment, I guess when we get to the code language, that's where the rubber meets the road on quote unquote regulatory requirements for developments in the city, whether commercial and industrial or residential. Will we have adequate ability to really dial in? Because there's a lot here, and it's important stuff, and I want to make sure we all really understand it before we start putting regulatory requirements on people. So I guess my question is, will we have adequate review time with you and Colleen and Andrea to really understand what we're proposing to put into code in further processing this?
Yes. So first off, I think that the site visit is a really good idea. I did that with Andrea a month or 2 months ago, and I think it's really helpful to walk around out there and I can show you and talk about ideas so you get a sense of what we're speaking about. And we just need to schedule that.
Okay.
And I think when the planners have gotten through the code revisions, well, one thing I can tell you is they're going to work on code revisions, but they're also going to work on like a template walking a developer through how to use this.
Okay.
So that would be really helpful. And I think maybe we could have some kind of working session, when all that's available so that everybody really understands what this means and how it will be implemented.
Good.
Anyway, however we could do that maybe outside of where we could actually sit down and walk through it and answer all your questions,
Good,
maybe outside of a formal public meeting. I don't know how that works.
Okay, good. That's good. Lydia, I'll come out. Maybe Jamie has input on this topic, and then we'll go to you, Lydia.
Yeah, no, this is the first that I'm hearing about, that there are code revisions. So is the Willamette partnership, are they planning to write the staff report, go through the public hearing process and the adoption process with the city council?
I think Colleen needs to answer that question.
Yes, Jamie. I'm sorry, we should have let you know that was the plan. But they are also, not only will they do the updates to the code and go through the process with city council, but they will also do the public outreach that's required in the plan. And we did that because the funding for consulting was not adequate in the grant. So that's how, we had an offer from Willamette Partnership and Andrea and council approved it.
All right. And that's great. However, I can support you guys to help their adoption. Just let me know. We also have code updates coming, but I'll talk about that when my time comes on the agenda. So thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, Lydia, then Ron.
My question involving this project is there's been so much work done on the contractors, thank you, Jody, as well as the city side, but it sounds like ODOT still hasn't come into the timeline. So I'm wondering, like, when is ODOT going to be putting forward their requirements for the stormwater plan, as well as like all of this work that has been done? Are we going to have to go back to square one when they present their regulations and requirements? So it seems like it's very much uneven work that's being done right now, especially since ODOT does play a part in it.
So Lydia, I think I can answer your question. So because Highway 30 is at the north, basically at the north end of the city and everything flows to it, I had to work with ODOT to figure out what criteria we could use for the city and all of the rainwater in the city so that we would also meet ODOT's criteria. And the Washington Street design that we're in process with and actually coordinating with ODOT is our test project. If that passes through, which we're just right there with them, then the criteria that we have established citywide will work with ODOT. So, and ODOT isn't the funder for the creation of the stormwater plan. That money came through DEQ from, I think it's actual federal money, but managed by DEQ.
Okay, thank you, Jody.
Yeah, so ODOT has actually been has been really helpful in this process, even though they're not a stakeholder reviewing it. But yeah, they've actually been really great to work with.
Thank you. Ron and then Colleen.
So I have a question / concern. I'm confused on whether the requirements of the stormwater management plan, at one point it looks like it's being applied to commercial and industrial properties. Is this also going to be required for residential properties? And if not, we need to have that clearly stated at some point, that just who this applies to.
So I think the impetus for it was for the impetus and the grant funding was, I'll say, filtered through a requirement for commercial and industrial, but it is written for the entire city. So that would be, and the way it's actually stated in the stormwater management plan, Ron, is that it's for to cover all new development and encourage existing development that doesn't comply with it to come into compliance. So it's managing stormwater, the rain that falls, in a way that works in the environment that we live in, so that it cares for the land and water, basically air, land, and water that we live in. So it's establishing a different perspective than the conventional approach. But it's for the purpose of it is so that we're actually taking care of our water, so that the city, I mean, you guys actually rely on wells, so that the city water source is something that that you can rely on for, well, essentially forever is the concept, right? If we can actually work with Mother Nature's systems as they're supposed to. So, yeah. And these are the conversations, as Mayor Anderson is suggesting, that we need to really dig into when we have these planning codes, and so that we can give you, what I'm hearing is you need to have a better sense of what this actually means for impact to the individuals, right?
Yeah, and I can respond a little bit to that,
Okay.
Ron. As Jody said, the original grant was written for updating the commercial and industrial permitting requirements. And when we got into it, one of the things that the city has needed is a formal stormwater management plan in order to continue with our charging the developers or citizens who are developing an SDC fee. Right now, the city has just a table of requirements and a little bit of code in the residential code. We don't have code for stormwater in our industrial and commercial. So this is really a requirement that most cities have to go through. So that's why we got the grant to do this work. So we're finally now getting a stormwater plan together. And the reason that we decided to do low impact development and or nature-based solutions was because the city really doesn't have the funding to do a piped system throughout the entire city. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but probably 6 or 7 years ago, the city of Hood River put in a new stormwater system throughout several sections of their downtown, and it was all piped. We don't have the capacity to do that. And so these natural solutions are being developed by Jody and the whole team in order to encourage developers to deal with stormwater on site. And most of the time, that's less expensive. Even in all of the EPA documentation, it's less expensive than piped systems or collection tanks or things like that. So in terms of the current code for residential development, everything that you guys went through to build your new house, you've already been through the permitting process, and there will be no legal requirement for you to change that. But through public education, we're hoping to encourage people to put in plantings in on their property to develop good stormwater systems, which is, like Jody was saying, it's groundwater treatment, but also groundwater recharge into our system. So I hope that helps a little bit.
So the principle of this, I'm fully on board with. It makes total sense to deal with this in a distributed methodology instead of piping it down to the river. But there's 2 points. There's discussion of there's requirement versus recommendation or attempt. I can't remember what the word that used was, but are we going to require people to do this or suggest that people do this? And then the second part of that is that I just think that we need to be cost conscious, that at a time when we're trying to also encourage affordable housing in Mosher, that the implementation of this doesn't end up being such a financial burden on people building residences that it becomes unwieldy.
Yeah, that's definitely a consideration when we get to the code piece, Ron. And right now we have a stormwater SDC, which means that we require all developers to.
Hold on.
I'm sorry.
Let Colleen finish.
All right.
We have a stormwater SDC, which does require residences or developers to deal with stormwater. So they will be required to deal with it in some way. And these are the the stormwater plan has the recommendations, and there will be management plans that are developed. The code will be, it's going to be developed to be as cost effective as what you have now. What you've.
So go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Jamie.
If I could add something. So, under federal law, the city cannot exact development more than they need a nexus, and they have to have proportionality under Nolan and Dolan. So there will be some parameters as they apply for stormwater development. So instead of asking, a single family home to be developed and just add a sidewalk, now they may be asked to, under these plans, shorten the sidewalk and instead add like a planter. So it won't, the proportionality will still be there. So it's not anything that is going to be deterring residential development for the city.
Exactly.
And that's protected under federal law.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, listen, how about I share similar concerns to Ron. I've said them before in council meetings. Some of them, my comments that Jody pointed out in the comments and responses are there. I think it points up that we all need to do a deep dive into this. I mean, the things in there about requiring geotech, or, Jody fixed this one where we said you had to go to a local native plant, that person, and for operation main. I mean, those details are going to be important. So I think as we move forward, Jody and Colleen and Andrea, let's figure out a way that we can really, really understand what we're going to be requiring when we get to the code and what it means, and have a discussion about, well, there is documented evidence out there that says BMPs for nature-based solutions are cheaper than engineering type solutions, that we're really confident with those kinds of statements. So I think this is good discussion tonight to just point up that I think this is important, because the implications that Ron's pointing out are real, and we got to understand that as we adopt this, because we're all accountable for that. So I think it just means some type of workshop, Jody, something where it's going to take some time for us to really understand what this means and what the requirements are going to be.
So
Colleen,
I have
go ahead.
I have one more. First, I have a comment for Jody for the plan, the draft plan. Jody, I think, can you develop just a simple, maybe 3 to 4 words for each project as a title for each of the projects you've recommended?
Oh, so the number 1 has a title?
Yeah, so each of them have a title, a project title. I think that will help. And then the other thing that I was going to say about all of this, I just think it would be good when we do go into a deeper discussion about what these things cost, is to find out what the code required you to do. Like, Whit, I know you've built a home in the last 7 or 8 years, or maybe 10, and Ron, you built a new home. There were requirements for you to do a stormwater treatment on your property.
Yeah,
and
that's
if you
right.
can figure out what those costs were, then we can come up with some responses. I think talking about it in general terms is more difficult.
Yeah, right. I think that's a
Okay.
good idea.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead, Jody.
I can
Please.
bring examples.
Yeah, I think we need a
projects
comparison.
I've designed, and I can, and where we've
Yeah.
done different things, and you'll be able to see that they're
Great.
less, You know, I had engineers telling me, well, this is the least, you know, this is the most cost effective solution for this property.
Yeah.
You know, so you just have to be able to think from the nature-based perspective. But yeah, I think that we need to do more work with this. But yeah. Yes, Pauline, I can add that.
Yeah, let's do that. I mean, I think for all of us, it just this is snug work. You know, we got to dive in here and really understand it. And the walkabout idea, I think, is a good one for those of us that can do that. And if it's a quorum, so we can invite the public along if anybody wants to come along. That's great. Okay, enough on this subject for now. Any other council comments, input on water, the stormwater management plan update? Okay, Jody, thank you. And
thank
Colleen,
you.
Thank you for your work. All right, Jamie Crawford, general planning update.
Yeah, no, it's been a while since I've talked to you guys. So thank you for having me on the agenda this evening. So you have a lot going on in your little town, but Andrea and Amy are very diligent, and they are ethical. So we have a couple different code violations that have gone out, and all of those are going to be resolved just by a staff decision. But if there are any appeals, they'll come to the council. But one of the largest things, or that I wanted to talk to you guys about tonight, is the DLCD grant for housing code amendments. So right now, the city of Mosier is not. There have been so many changes in state law, literally in the last 2 or 3 years, that most communities are not in compliance. And Mosier is one of those. However, we did receive a grant from the state for $45,000. And I know that Mosier does not have a planning commission. But I would like to ask if there are any council members that would like to be a part of a technical advisory committee, and then also to ask the council in general if there are any community members that would better serve the city being on that advisory committee as we go through the process and update the code. So they don't have to live in Mosier. They could have some tangential relationship with the community, but residing in there it's not a requirement. So I guess I'll open this up for discussion and any questions that the council has for me.
Well, Jamie, I think the idea of a committee is a good idea. What's a little unclear to me is the real scope of service. You know, what that work would entail, and maybe you can articulate that. But I think it would be good to put on paper in simple terms. Here's the mission assignment. Here's the task. Here's what success looks like, the end state, and here's what a committee would be in working to do to help this process along, so people understand it. Because
Yeah, so
I read your staff report. the first thing that comes to mind is, well, our comprehensive plan is so out of date. Are we getting ahead of the comprehensive plan? Just questions like that. But other counselors have thoughts on the committee. Look, we just had a committee do the skate park rules, and it was a resounding success. They did great
Great
work.
success. You
Yeah,
guys did great.
yeah. But other counselors, or Jamie, you want to respond, or Andrea?
If I could respond real quick. So, the funding is coming through a state bill that created the Housing Accountability Production Office. So everything that we have to do, or everything that we will do, has to some way incorporate residential development. But in the city of Mosier, you guys allow residential development everywhere in your city. So the the way that we kind of formulate the scope of this is very malleable. That being said, I feel like there are certain things in your code, and you guys have a code that was written for literally the city of Portland, but you're not the city of Portland. So I feel like there's a lot of ways to reduce the amount of language that is in your code, and more of those are policy discussions or information that could live outside of that. Um, so that the city council doesn't need to constantly go through code amendments. So one, for instance, um, was the transportation system plan code amendment that we had to go through in June to allow that alternative street design. Um, that did not need to live in your in your development code. So
Well, how about, it seems to me clarity on next steps, including the advisory committee. It seems like a good idea, but I think we need on paper, again, I'm repeating myself,
sure.
what the assignment is. Here's the scope of work. Here's the end. Here's the task. Here's the end products. What success looks like. And by the way, advisory committee. Here's how you're going to help us get this done. So if we ask anyone out there to participate, maybe Mark Payne, we say, Mark, will you be on this committee? Here's what your assignment is, so he can understand it. Andrea, what do you think? Could you and Jamie just knock that out? I don't think it's a big task, but what it is exactly we're going to accomplish here, and what a committee role would be.
Right. The $45,000 is just a small drop in the bucket, and it definitely needs to be defined as far as, what specific parts of the code we're working with. And it goes back to, the history of the code. It was codified almost 20 years ago, and then every time something came up, something was added to it. So I think Jamie and I definitely need to get together and get very specific about how far $45,000 can go and what we will be working on.
Yeah, well, exactly. Thank you. It's better said than I was trying to say it. Thank you. So is that fair next step? Other counselors, thoughts, input?
That was my concern as well. Is what's achievable for 45K. And if we need to do more than that, if we really need to, then where would the funding for that come from?
Is that okay, Jamie?
Yeah, no, we'll definitely scope it to be within that 45K. I'm I'm estimating maybe 6 meetings for a technical advisory committee, including the 2 meetings before council, one with a workshop and one for adoption. But yeah, Andrew and I will scope it to remain within that budget.
Yeah, perfect. What you just said would be something to put in. Here's the assignment. So we get some citizens on there, maybe a couple council members that, okay, there's going to be 6 meetings and boom, here's your task, etc. Okay, Andrea, more on this topic, or Jamie? So more to come back to us with what the proposal is, what the
Yeah,
request is.
we'll get a scope of work back to you guys. And I think my main ask for the city council at this point is to think about if you want to be involved in the advisory committee, or if there are other individuals that you think would add value to the discussion for what happens in Mosier in the next 25 and 50 years.
Yeah, and Andrea, we could even put on the website a little inquiry to any interested citizens. And here's what we'd be asking you to do. We could post the
Oh, I
scope.
love that. Yes.
Okay, and yeah, I like Jamie asking counselors. It'd be great if a few counselors said, yeah, I'll jump in on that, like we have in other
I'd be
topics.
willing to
Good.
help if I have a skill set that would be useful.
Great.
Of
Thank
course
you,
you
Ron.
do. Thank you, Ron.
Okay, anything else on this topic? Thank you, Jamie.
No, not at all. Thank you, Mayor Anderson.
Thank you. All right, Andrea, the volunteer project management agreement for Jacobs Park. We need action by council to approve your action on that.
Sorry, I needed to close my distraction there. So this is really the first time that the city has had an opportunity to have volunteer project coordinators. So I worked closely with Laura, as well as contacting the insurance agency. And really Monica was really essential, as well as kind of leading me in the right direction as far as creating a formal agreement to have volunteer project coordinators. Managing the skate park project. John Grimm has been a city engineer for the city of Mosier for many years, so you're quite familiar with his level of professional skills. And Lee Campbell has been a project manager for architectural projects in the Portland area, and specifically around OHSU. So we have 2 consultants that are very highly qualified to offer their services at no cost to the city in order to keep costs down regarding the skate park project. And I vetted this with Laura. We started with kind of a rough draft, and she put all of the important clauses and information into it. So I recommend that the city approve of me entering into an agreement to have volunteer project management for Jacobs Park.
Great. I love the model. It's great to get professional help to the city that's not costing us. So great.
And this model can be used in the future too. So it's it was an opportunity to create something that might be used in the future for other things too.
Excellent. And thank you, Lee, and thanks to John, and thanks to Laura for working with you to put it together. So I'm all in. Counselors, any questions, comments about this?
This is great.
Yeah, if not, would somebody like
do
to
this for us?
Somebody like to move the proposed motions in the chat there?
Noah has his hand up.
Noah? Great. You're on mute.
Sorry. I just wanted a little bit of clarification on one item here. I was overlooking the hold harmless agreement, Section 8 liability coverage. And I just wanted to double check that anyone volunteering for us won't have any issues and will fall under that same employment coverage. Is there any limitations to that or any like concerns we need to address other than just like the normal? I don't know. Is there anything special?
I've been, I consulted with our insurance company, and that is why this clause is in there. The volunteers will be covered under a safe policy, and even though the contract work that they're doing isn't really boots on the ground construction, it will provide some liability coverage for the city if there was an incident. And it's related to how many hours of volunteer work they're doing. And I haven't gotten a quote on that, but it will be a fairly nominal sum. It won't be a lot. And it's also teaching me more about what the needs are if we were to have a volunteer work party doing something like constructing stormwater planter boxes under Rock Creek, which is one of Jody's recommendations for the stormwater plan. And if there were volunteers down there doing work for the city, then I know the process now to get coverage.
Awesome. Thank you.
Other questions, comments? Can I entertain a motion? All right, Charlie, you're on mute.
I make the motion that we move council to authorize the city manager to enter into volunteer service agreements with John Grimm and Lee Campbell for project management at Jacobs Park.
Great, thank you. Any discussion? I have a second.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Lydia. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Lydia and Brenna, you're in?
Yep, aye.
Great, unanimous. Thank you. Good work. Again, thank you, Lee, and thanks to John. Thanks for your work on it, Andrea. Okay, moving on. Then the next one is the authority to move forward on the contract. You want to speak to that, Andrea?
Sure. We've brought before council the grant funding and the budget proposal from that, and now I've been working with Laura again to create a formal contract with Dreamland for the construction portion of the skate park, and it is. It's a formal document that outlines the scope of work and what each person's role is within it, as well as the language that the city requires in order to protect itself while still having a professional agreement with Dreamland.
Any questions? Comments?
Laura's currently drafting that, completing the draft of the contract, and due to the time limitations, I'd like to get the council's approval for me to enter into that contract.
Good. Any questions or comments for Andrea? Okay, if not, hey, I'm all in on this one too, and you having Laura's good work, I'm very confident. So, anyone like to move?
I will.
Gary, thank you.
I move that city council authorize the city manager to enter into contract with Dreamworks, Dreamland for construction of the skate park, as outlined in the contract to be developed by the city attorney. Does that work?
Yeah, I think so. Any discussion? Amendments? Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Whoever take your pick, Amy, Ron, Brenna, or Charlie. You're all three at the same time. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All in favor, none opposed? Great, thank you. Andrea, thanks for your work on that. We're going to get this project done. Well, that
Yes,
brings
thank you.
us to updates. Two things. One, very good meeting. I think we got accomplished a lot tonight. We're making progress. So thanks to everybody that worked hard to do all the good things we did tonight. I have one good news to report. Representative Helfrich has his number one capital construction funding request for Mosier Joint Use Facility or Mosier Center for $4.5 million. So that's really, really good news. Of course, we still have the uphill sledding to get through the legislative process and, you know, the forecast for the economy and lottery funds, et cetera, et cetera. So it's no guarantee. And as I think we mentioned before, Senator Drazen is going to support that request. So that's really good news on that project. Other than that, let's just go around the horn. Anyone? Andrea, maybe start with you. Updates, anything for the good?
Well, I just think that this meeting is really indicative of the level of work that we're getting accomplished in the city. And, you know, there's a lot of just little things that Amy and I continue to work on. Monica and Amy, Colleen meet weekly for finance discussions. I've been joining those meetings as well, and it really helps to, you know, inform the work and build the team as we work towards the common goals of having, you know, standard operating procedures and processes and applying our rules and ordinances on an equal basis. I think that's the other thing that really takes up quite a bit of our time is planning and trying to coordinate that. And I think that's it for me. One other thing is I went to a meeting this week with the Lower John Day Council on Transportation, which is where ODOT prioritizes projects. And I'm was glad that I was attending the meeting. The majority of the projects identified were on I-197, which is, you know, a very important highway for all of these rural communities, and it's also quite dangerous. So I think that they really, you know, have their priorities straight. But I also asked for the Mosier Streetscape project to be put on that list. There was room for 5 to 6 projects, and they had 4 listed. So our Streetscape project has been put on the ODOT priority list for the Lower John Day region.
Good for you. Good work. Good work. Colleen, you want to add something? Go ahead. Or are you just clapping? I'm sorry.
I'm clapping. I'm clapping for Andrea because I remember those meetings, and it was always hard to get our project in line. So go, Andrea. Yay.
Yeah, good work. Hey, speaking of that, Andrea, reminds me, you sent out the notice for the annual meeting, LLC meeting, I think, coming up. Is it in Pendleton?
That's right.
I think, can we get some scholarship money? I'm just bringing this up to encourage if a council member would like to go. I know Brenna's been to some of them in the past. I've been, Andrea's been. Is somebody willing to and wanting to do that? If you can fit it in your schedule, maybe.
It is in Pendleton. I believe that it's in May. And I did put my name in the hat for a scholarship, but would be happy to share that or figure out a way to encourage another council person to participate in the League of Oregon Cities spring conference.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, any other council
I guess
members?
one other quick update is that Amy and I are both attending the CIS, and it's City Insurance Service is what that acronym is for. They provide a lot of information on, human resources and mitigating risks for small cities. Amy's going to be attending virtually, and I will be attending in person. It's in Salem, February 25th, I believe.
Good, good. And speaking of that, Rob Miller from the Fire Board and I are anticipating making a visit down to the halls of the Capitol to talk to members about the funding requests on the JUF at some point when it's opportune. Okay, anything else? Any other council members? No, going once, going twice. Thank you all. Thanks to the staff for your work. As you said, Andrew, we're making progress. So really appreciate it. And thanks to everyone else out there that hung in on this meeting. Appreciate your participation and attendance. We will now adjourn. Thank you, guys. Good night.
Good night, y'all.
Hey, y'all.
Night, everybody.